What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 14 of Tsunami Speaks with your host, Tsunami Jones. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, tell a friend if you can, retweet it when I tweet that we're going live or that we're putting out a show. That's how we'll continue to grow this channel going forward and keep making headway towards 100 subscribers and, of course, beyond. Quick update regarding that. I'm currently at 99 subscribers, so really appreciate the progress we've made so far. I would not be here without you guys spreading the word. Thank you so much for helping me get there. Hopefully, we'll continue to keep growing it and get into 1,000, 2,000, 1,500. I don't know. Maybe not 1,500. Go in the reverse order there, but 10,000. We'll see. All that being said, we're going to move on to week 6 where the first third of the season will be finished come this Sunday. The Jets are 3-2 and have the chance to go 2 games over 500, which is still incredible to say. I certainly was not expecting this coming into the season for us to be 3-2, considering we were going to be playing the daunted AFC North, and we all know how good they can be. And then especially having Flacco be hurt, not be hurt, but take place of Zach, who Zach got hurt, Mekhi Becton got hurt. Y'all know all the deal. It's a pretty surreal feeling for the Jets to be 3-2, considering all the adversity that we have undergone so far. So awesome. The Packers are 3-2 as well. So this matchup's going to be really fun. Both teams need this W to continue to stay afloat in the division. If we lose and the Dolphins win, they'll be at 4-2, so they'll move to second. Conversely, with the Packers, they are chasing the Vikings right now. Vikings are leading the division. And the Vikings are on a 3-game winning streak. So I'm sure the Packers, considering they're coming off that shocking loss to the New York football Giants. Some say it may not be shocking, but I think most of the world was shocked that they lost and in that fashion. So are the Vikings looking at this game as a get right game? Maybe. But I don't think the Jets are overstepping this game or overlooking this game. It's very important to them too. So it's going to be a hell of a damn game as we play in Lambeau. All right, so we'll see what ends up happening, but let's move on into the injury report. So let's start with our New York Jets. Jermaine Johnson is out. He's joining George Fant and Max Mitchell, who are already out because they're on the IR. So no surprises there. As far as questionable players, we have Dwayne Brown, but he was a full participant in practice on Friday, so it looks like he's good. As far as the Green Bay Packers go, they have Tipa Gallier. Hope I pronounced that right. Uh, he's their third string will linebacker. Sammy Watkins is on the IR, in case anyone was unaware of that. Christian Watson is going to be out as well. He didn't practice this week at all. And the one player that the Green Bay Packers have as questionable and might be a game time decision is Rashawn Gary, and he has turf toe. Um, so as far as what this means, as far as both teams go, the good news is we get Quincy Williams back. He practiced this week. I believe he was limited on Wednesday and Thursday, but Friday he was a full participant, so we're good there. That's huge, just to make our linebacking core strong again. We all know Quincy Williams is obviously better than Marcel Harris, so that's a win there. And for those Jets fans who are concerned that Quan may not be getting snaps, like I said, Marcel Harris is more so taking his place. So Quan's still going to get snaps, and even if he gets a little bit less snaps, I'm okay with that. As great as Quan has been, and y'all know Quan is my guy. I make an excuse to talk about Quan almost every episode because I love him, man. I would buy his jersey, but I don't know how long he'll be with the team, like long term. So I'm gonna hold off. That said, I want us to continue to preserve him. He, over the course of his career, has been I don't want to call him injury prone. I'm gonna say he's a colorful injury history. So, with that said, maybe we don't need him to do 100% of the snaps. I'm okay with a rotation in the linebacking core. And don't forget, Quincy was killing it in the first few weeks of the season. And his best game as a Jet, honestly, was against the Bengals before he got hurt. So I'm encouraged by this. And we'll definitely have packages, excuse me, where all three are on the field. Meaning CJ Mosley, Quan Alexander, and Quincy. So this is good news. Happy to hear this. Rashawn Gary is on the injury report, like I mentioned earlier, and that surprised me a little bit. I'm not too sure if he's been banged up all year. I watch the Packers here and there, but obviously I pay way more attention to what the Jets are doing. Um, and says that he's been limited in practice on Thursday and Friday. And generally speaking, depending on the coach, when they're limited on Friday too, it's not really a good sign. They try to have these players be ready for Friday's practice. And Mike LaFleur said he was kind of concerned about his availability. So sounds like it's going to be a 50-50 shot, maybe 60-40. Players like to push it. I don't know. And turf toe just seems like it's one of those injuries that never really gets better. So it's a pain tolerance thing. So we'll see. Um, so we'll see. I think they'll be stretched it a little bit thin at linebacker, considering who I mentioned that their third string guy is going to be out. So they'll be limited, but they still have great linebackers on this team, like Devondre Campbell and whatnot. Um, and one side note, I have to mention it. I have to. Aaron Rodgers has a thumb injury. It sounds like it's on his throwing hand. He didn't play on Wednesday, but he did play Thursday and Friday. Apparently, it got hurt in one of those batted passes he had in the fourth quarter against the Giants last week. You probably could see it because he got his pass batted a couple of times there. We'll see how it affects him, but I don't think it'll be a significant factor in this game. I really don't want to hear excuses about his thumb injury being the reason that they lose this game. But we'll see. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. So we're going to move on now to the keys to the W. Alrighty. So my first key is going to be complementary football. All three phases are going to need to be above average to beat this team. One of the reasons the Patriots were still in that game against the Packers a couple of weeks ago, and they still almost won it. They took it to overtime, in case you guys might have forgotten, because no one probably cared about that game except for us that were betting on it, or Packers fans and Patriots fans, of course. But the thing is, the Packers don't really beat themselves, and the Patriots certainly don't. So that's why the Patriots are still in that game, and they ran the hell out of the ball. So keep in mind that in all three of our wins that we've had so far, aside from the Browns win, our defense, special teams, and offense has continued to make big plays, and we're instrumental in these W's. So honestly, if we don't play complementary football, unless the offense is otherworldly, we're not going to win this game. So all three are very important, and we'll need it in this one. This is not going to be an easy game by any stretch. My next key is we need to manage penalties and definitely limit them. Something that might be flying under the radar just in regards to fans, because none of us think about penalties much, except for when it's happening and it's pissing us off, right? We are currently averaging 72 yards per game on penalties every single game. This worries me. The Packers average 32, I believe, yards a game. I think we've been winning in spite of some of these penalties. I can point to the Pittsburgh Steelers games when we had some back-breaking penalties in the fourth quarter, but Zach was able to make those big boy plays, and we ended up winning in spite of them. And then keep in mind also with the Packers, they have Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers does a really good job of drawing penalties. Some might say he yaps to the refs and all that other stuff and hubbub. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying dude sees this stuff and tries to embarrass other teams, defensive lines, as well as their secondaries. He's good at drawing DPIs. Normally now, I won't say he's good at drawing it, but he's good at catching it and making sure he throws the ball in that direction to what insert wide receiver here. Maybe not as quite as good this year as they were last year because they did lose Devontae Adams, and he could draw some DPIs because of just his otherworldly route running that he does. But I digress. That is the big concern for me, considering it's one of our weaknesses already. And I wouldn't say we're the most disciplined team. If you've been watching the Jets all year, you would agree with me. We're not. Not saying that we won't have a good game limiting penalties, but that's going to be a key here, a major one. The next key I have is for us to win the time of possession. I do mention this often, but it's going to be imperative this week. This is my biggest key. The longer you keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, the easier it is for any team to win, especially us. Last week, the Giants held the ball 32 minutes. The Packers held it 28 minutes. I mean, that's not a coincidence that they won. It's because of that. They had some huge drives in that game where Aaron was just sitting there because the Giants were doing such a good job of just running the ball and just dragging the time out. Or, whether it was Saquon Barkley or whether it was Daniel Jones. And another big key here, or not another big key, but another thing about this is we have to run the ball in order for us to do so, like I just said the Giants do. And luckily for us, the Packers are giving up 126 yards per game. I think we can replicate that smash mouth football because we just played it against the Dolphins and hit them all in their mouth. The Giants ran all over them last week. And if you throw out the Buccaneers win, when the Packers beat the Buccaneers, mind you, and the Bucks were only able to run for 34 yards on 14 attempts. The Packers have been averaging giving up 150 yards per game. Think that's a big deal. We can run on this team. We can certainly run on this team, and we have to run on this team. With Brees and Michael Carter, I don't see why we can't. We have two really good running backs. Brees is coming into his own. Michael Carter was great last year. He still doesn't go down on the first tackle. You need players like that. Hell, I would not be surprised if we get Zach a little bit more involved as far as RPOs, where he just runs a little bit. As long as he protects himself and slides, I'm okay with Zach doing so. So I think that's going to be a huge deal for us. The next one is going to be the reverse of what I was just discussing. The Jets need to stop the run. The Packers are averaging 134 yards per game. And even though everybody and their mama knows that they're going to run the football and that's really their only strength because everyone knows how good Aaron Jones is and AJ Dillon is. They have two fantastic running backs. Both can get it done on a down to down basis. Both can run through the tackles. Aaron Jones is a threat when he bounces outside. Well, he's a threat everywhere. He's a threat on screens. And AJ Dillon's hands have improved over the years. When he first came to the NFL, he didn't really have great hands, but I've noticed over the last couple of years, they're trying to throw to him a little bit more to keep the defenses off balance because teams make assumptions. The Giants held the Packers to 94 yards last week. If we can hold them to less than 100 yards rushing, I really, really, really like our chances on winning. That may be an indictment on their wide receiving core. I don't care. I said what I said. um, all they really do well offensively is run. So we have to stop it. We have to. Next key is we need a great special teams performance. Last year, the Packers had one of the worst special teams units in the NFL. It's one of the reasons they lost to the 49ers in the playoffs was their special teams just being porous and terrible. I think they were the worst in the NFL, if not bottom five. This year, they're better. I was looking at, their returners yardage and stuff like that. I'm not going to bore you with some of those stats. No one really is. Very few people are super into special teams, so I will keep it brief. And I'll just say that our special teams is better, and we have the advantage when we have players like Braden Mann, who's been punting out of his mind since week 2. Braxton Berrios, I mean, he was a special teams player. I forgot exactly what he got. I think he made it to the Pro Bowl. If it wasn't the Pro Bowl, it was All Pro. It was one or the other for his special teams prowess. Justin Hardy is our special teams ace. He makes plays. I believe one or maybe more than one will make a huge play in this game. For those of you who do like special teams, watch. Justin Hardy always does something in it. Sometimes it's really minute, just or not minute, but like something subtle to the eye, but it's always instrumental in something good happening. I don't think we forced the fumble in my memory right now as far as special teams. Maybe this is the week where it happens. I'm excited to see it, and I hope Braden Mann keeps downing these players in their 10-yard line, and maybe we can get another safety. That's a special teams win too, if you think about it. Well, special teams plus defense getting together and making something awesome occur. Moving on. Our defense needs to get to the quarterback. The Packers have given up a total of 11 sacks so far. The Giants got Rodgers on his back twice, and they had 6 quarterback hits last week. Our boys had 2 sacks and 16 quarterback hits against the Dolphins. I would say those are similar performances. One might be a little bit better than the other. And I will say, though, I don't expect our boys to necessarily have 16 quarterback hits and 2 sacks again because the Dolphins' offensive line is not the same as the Packers' offensive line. Dolphins' offensive line was in shambles. Remember, Teron Armstead went out early. Um, and that makes a huge difference. And the Packers have Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins on their offensive line, and they're both phenomenal. Anyone that watches the Packers regularly knows that. Um, Jenkins has given up 2 sacks in 4 games. He hasn't had the best season, but I think he's still a little bit rusty coming off of his. I think he had an ACL last year. So they have to keep that in mind. And Bakhtiari, as everyone knows, has had like 11 to 12 surgeries on his on his ACL and all that, and still hasn't quite gotten his knee completely healthy. But even with me saying that, he hasn't given up a sack this season. 3 games in for him, so we'll see. But that's still pretty impressive considering they both had their best games of the season last week against the Giants. They didn't give up any sacks, either of them, and yet they still lost. So something for us to still try to take advantage of those two. The question is, can Carl Lawson and JFM build off their games last week and break through this offensive line? Carl Lawson was a beast last week with his I believe he had 8 quarterback hits and a sack. And if he can do that again, huge. But they're gonna have to. Quinnen is going to have to be dominant in this game as well. Now he's been all season, so I'm encouraged by him. But we'll see if Carl Lawson and JFM. JFM has been quiet most of the season. Last week was the first game he's really busted out, so to speak. So we need them to all build on their games and keep going. My final key, even though I could probably do like 8 or 9 more of them, I don't want this video to be but so long, right? Our offensive line needs to hold up for Zach. We only gave up 2 sacks last week. I'm hoping with us going back to back with the same unit for the second time this season, we'll be a little bit better. Remember, Dwayne Brown came back for his first game against the Dolphins last week at left tackle after starting for the first time. And then, of course, AVT can build on his performance at right tackle for the first time in his entire career last week as well. AVT seems to dominate wherever the hell he plays, so I'm not worried, obviously, considering he played so well anyway. But still, this is still a good defensive line that the Packers have, so I won't take that for granted. And Zach Wilson has been balling when he's protected. So we're going to need him to continue to be protected so he can dominate next week as well. So that's what I have for that. And we're going to move on next to the player spotlights. All right, starting with, of course, our New York Jets, as always. First player I'm going to go with here is going to be Zach Wilson, and I kind of have to start with the quarterback each week, guys. I mean, he's the franchise. He's coming off another nice game, even though he didn't throw any touchdowns. It wasn't that kind of game. We didn't need him to be Superman. We just kind of needed him to be that point guard, so to speak, and make sure everybody ate last week. And he made sure, he fed the ball to his RJ Barrett. That's Brees Hall, by the way. And so he made sure he dominated. Anyway, I could easily see us using a similar playbook to what we just did against the Dolphins, and run the air out of the football yet again. However, if it does get close in the fourth quarter, and I do expect it to be close in the fourth, Zach will need to make big plays and keep these drives going because you're going to need those points at the end. I think he'll have a similar yardage gain to last week, anywhere from 225 to 250, I think is where he'll settle, but I think he'll throw for 2 touchdowns because they're going to be expecting us to try and run it up the gut once we get to the end zone. So that's my prediction for Zach. Feeling pretty good. I think he's going to be clean another week. I don't think we're going to test their secondary too much personally. I think we'll just have some open players here and there, whether it's Brees, Michael Carter, or the next player that I have in line that I think might have a big game, Corey Davis. I think it's going to be your turn this week. Um, Anyone that's been watching the Jets should know this. Corey Davis is Zach's favorite target. He throws to him the most. And when he's in trouble, he goes to him. And this year, he's been making the tough catches. He's been clutch in those fourth quarter drives. I know it's only been 2 games, guys, but we know the fourth quarter has been our bread and butter this year. He even played well again when Flacco was the QB against the Browns. I could see him having a 70-yard game with a touchdown, especially with Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson. I think are going to be getting their best corner. I'm assuming Elijah Moore is going to get Jair Alexander, but I wouldn't be surprised if Garrett Wilson gets Jair Alexander against him on a few plays. He is one of the best corners in the NFL. Clearly, he's worried about this game because of what he said in his presser, saying that he's not worried about them losing to the Giants. He said he would only worry if he starts losing to us, the Jets. So maybe he'll play well, or maybe he'll eat his words. I'm rooting for that. Regardless, Corey's going to eat if he doesn't have the best corner on the team. If he's not being double teamed, I'm telling you, Corey will have a good game if that's the game plan. I mean, I can't guarantee that's what LaFleur is going to do. I just think it's going to be Corey Davis that'll be the wide receiver who'll get the most touches. And of course, Brees Hall is the next player. I mean, how can I not go here? Dude is coming off a 200-yard game from scrimmage. My dog, Brees the Beast Hall. Considering the numbers I brought up earlier, that what other running backs have been feasting upon the Packers, so to speak, except for Leonard Fournette. I don't know what was wrong with him that game, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I expect another big game from Brees. He's a weapon between running the tackles, receiving the ball. He has game-changing plays. That 79-yarder, I still can't talk about it enough because it was awesome. And he got stopped at the one twice on Sunday. I don't think he's gonna go down at the one this time. I think he'll get in the end zone at least once. So my prediction here, he's going to give us 90 yards rushing, touchdown, and maybe 30 to 40 yards receiving. That's what I'm thinking. Lastly, as far as the Jets go, I'm going to go with a unit. And this may surprise you. I am not picking on our safeties this time. I am going with our linebacker unit. Quan, Quincy, and CJ Mosley. Can they help contain the run? Can they help against screens? These are things that the Packers do, and they do fairly well. I will say this though, Quan Alexander's run grade on PFF is 76.7, which is the second highest on the team after Michael Clemens, who's had limited snaps so far. So I would kind of move Michael Clemens down because he hasn't played as much and definitely put Quan higher. Uh, for perspective, Jermaine Johnson is third. Anyone that's been watching and really been paying attention to the defensive line, Jermaine Johnson's been playing really well. He's also been a little bit limited in snaps, but plays significantly more than Michael Clemens at the present, aside from this coming week because he's hurt. That said, we're going to need our linebackers to help set the edge and help run support, in case players get by our defensive line. Those linebackers are going to have to make plays in space against Aaron Jones. That is a little bit of a worry for me, but I'm relieved somewhat because I believe in Quan. CJ Mosley's been a little bit better this year. It's been subtle. He's a tackling machine. We already know that, but he's been a little bit better in space. So we need that. We need that from him. Quincy, we'll see if he's a little rusty coming into the game. We don't know what to expect there. So my eyes are going to be on our linebackers as a whole. But I'll tell you what, my guy Quan will have at least one huge hit on somebody. Maybe this is a week where he gives us another fumble. Maybe Quinnen gets the ball after the fumble occurs and he runs that in for a touchdown. I just want another angry run from my guy Quinnen, okay? But anyway, Quan is a playmaker. Let's see what he does this game. All right. And for the players we can't let be a menace to us. Aaron Rodgers. He's still Aaron Rodgers. And personally, he's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in the NFL. I know some people don't like him because of his attitude and all that stuff. I understand that. But as far as watching quarterbacks just play the game and manipulate the pocket, and young Aaron was my favorite. This Aaron's a little more seasoned, plays the game a little bit differently. He's just not as athletic as he used to be, which is forgiven, obviously. But it's just fun to watch him play offense. This year, he hasn't been as fun to watch. I can admit that. But my respect is there. He still knows where the defense, the weaknesses of each defense is. He's going to know where our weakness is because the familiarity aspect, and he studies. And we all know the weakness right now is going to be between our safeties and our linebackers, but more so our safeties. Even though they have been better, I will continue to beat this drum and give them credit. They have been much better the last couple of weeks. I'm glad the secondary looks good as a whole, but the safeties are the weakness. That said, is Aaron Rodgers going to be able to attack them? And will his young wide receiving core, will they let him down? They have had plenty of drops and big moments in these games. They had some against the Giants. They had some the week before. I don't remember who they played the week before, but y'all know. It's just I don't know. Dobbs seems to do it. Christian Watson, who is not playing, but he's had a couple of just concentration drops, and that's what pisses off your quarterback. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say, if they have a good game and there's no lapses in judgment and they catch the ball well, Aaron Rodgers is going to be hard to stop. But I like our chances with our corners. That said, the next player I got is Aaron Jones. He is one of my favorite running backs in the NFL. He's so fun. Just saying. He averages 78 yards rushing per game and 20 yards receiving per game. He can scamper off for a big play at any time, so you have to know where he is on the field at any given moment. He has great hands in the passing game as well. He may be averaging those 20 yards receiving, but he just needs one play to break off for a touchdown. One play, or at least for a 30-yard gain. He's dangerous. That is a dangerous player. Um, he hasn't really gone off, but like maybe 2 games this year. Is this week his due? Hopefully not. I think the Jets should be decent against them. Like I said, our goal is to hold them under 100, even if Aaron averages 80 yards, excuse me, or 70 to 80 yards, and we hold AJ Dillon from killing us, then we're good. But that's a player I'm a little worried about going into it. Preston Smith is the last player that I'm worried about. He's their best pass rusher. Our offensive line, like I said, has been a bit better recently, but I don't have full trust in them. So anytime they're going to be going against a really good pass rusher, that pass rusher is going to be on my list of players we can't let be a menace to us. Preston Smith has 3.5 sacks and 10 tackles coming into this game. So he hasn't really gone off yet this season. I don't want that to happen against us. So offensive line, take him out. And just a fun fact that you guys might find interesting, at least I found it funny or interesting, is DQ Thomas. Any of you guys who pay attention to the training camp and practice squad, not practice squad, but training camp and OTAs and all that good stuff preseason, DQ Thomas is someone that we had signed and as one of our linebackers that we were hoping to kind of stash and develop. He was poached from us. And apparently now he plays for the Packers. Just I was shocked to see that. He has not done anything yet. He might just technically be on their practice squad, but regardless, he's over there now. So he went to the other team that wears green, or one of the few that wears green. Okay, lastly, gonna go with the prediction of the game. So here we go. Honestly, the same old Jets from yesteryear, maybe even earlier this year, would get blown out in this game. You got to think about it. Set the scene here. Jets had one of their biggest wins in the last 10 years, even though we keep saying that every time we win. But the Dolphins win was huge. You guys know that. Division win, first division win in 2 years, blew them out at home, snatched their souls out their chests, all that good stuff. But that said, after a game like that, it's easy to kind of take your foot off the gas and just go out there and play, but not necessarily play with your whole heart. And like I said, same old Jets of yesteryear would just go out there and get blown out by the Packers. I don't think this is the same old Jets. I said that in my tweet earlier this week. I said that last week in general. I just don't think that's us now. I think we slayed the same old Jets dragon when we beat the Dolphins. And things to keep in consideration here. One thing I want to say before I even go into the Matt LaFleur stuff, um, the Packers are coming off not just the fact that they lost to the Giants, that's one thing. But the other thing is they just played overseas in the UK. In years past, what they used to do when they would go overseas is they would give them an immediate bye week to rest, recover their bodies, and all that good stuff. That didn't happen this week. And anyone that watched the Vikings last week, the Vikings played really well. And in the fourth quarter, it looks like they didn't have their legs. And that's probably because they were tired. They had some jet lag. That stuff, I mean, NFL players play so hard and expend so much energy that I could see that kind of thing being a latent effect, so to speak. So I think that's something to monitor. I'm not saying that's going to be, a guarantee as to why we're winning. I'm just saying that might be a factor. The other one is our familiarity with this team. You have to keep in mind Matt LaFleur is Robert Sala's best friend. They've been in the NFL together for a long time. And then, of course, the obvious, our offensive coordinator's name is Mike LaFleur. He is Matt LaFleur's brother. That just makes the game a little bit more interesting. These guys all know each other in and out, not just personality, but play calling wise. They know what each other likes to do. Uh, Mike on our team said in an interview earlier on this week that him and Mike play not play. They call each other every Monday to go over each other's play calling. Matt normally critiques what Mike has been doing and things of that nature. Rob says he normally calls Matt all the time as well. They both said they haven't spoken to each other this week because it's game week and it's serious. I mean, I know that kind of interpersonal stuff probably doesn't mean anything to you guys, but I'm saying they know what each other's thoughts are. They know how each other plays, and they all run the same offense. Therefore, they all should know how to stop them defensively. Advantage Robert Sala, as far as I'm concerned. And secondarily, advantage Mike LaFleur, our offensive coordinator, for knowing that as well. Um, so our coaches know what their weaknesses are. Think about how we just played against the Dolphins. It's that same familiarity. Um, he runs the same offense as well. Mike McDaniel runs the same offense as we do. We're all running that Shanahan style. Think of and another, mentioning that Dolphins game like I just did. Remember that cornerback blitz that we did with Sauce on the very first play of the game? What did that result in? Y'all know we got a safety, intentional grounding. It was because they said, they've been doing this every week. They look like no one's ever did a corner blitz against them or something to that effect I heard. They hadn't had one happen to them yet in the season. They didn't say who said that, you know what I mean? They didn't say who came up with it, but that familiarity is what led them to make that decision and it worked right away. I mean, the difference of a Mike McDaniel versus a Matt LaFleur should be pretty stark considering that Matt LaFleur's been in the NFL longer. But you guys get the point. The familiarity is there. The Packers have no pass catchers that scare you at all. I don't know a wide receiver that does anything for me over there. To me, their best wide receiver's name is Aaron Jones. Randall Cobb is he's a little elderly. Lazard is not a great route runner, but he has, for the most part, steady hands. Or it's not, I won't even say he's a bad route runner. He's a solid route runner. He's just not, he doesn't have any speed that really helps him. Y'all know speed kills in the NFL. Anyway, I'm ranting here. My whole point is I think the Jets win this game. Um, and I'm going with the Jets 21-17. Low scoring-ish game just because I still have more respect for the Packers defense than maybe some might. And I think that the Jets are going to run the ball so much, it just wouldn't surprise me if we're not scoring a ton of touchdowns. 3 sounds about right to me. Okay, guys, here are going to be my potential parlays for this segment here. Again, just a quick disclaimer, I'm an amateur bettor, learning week to week. It's been really fun, but just don't, I'm not a professional, I'm not a sharp bettor, as they say. So just take my stuff with a grain of salt. That said, to start this off, I'm going to be taking the Jets to cover again because the Jets have been doing a pretty good job of that, and they keep giving us these nice lines. FanDuel has it at 7.5 points. I feel like that's plenty for the Jets. I already told you. I think we're going to beat them 21-17. That's 4 points. I just don't see it being a touchdown, especially for them. So that said, I'm taking the Jets to cover. Next one I have is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. They are going to be playing the Dolphins this week. Taking the Vikings minus the 3 points. You got a 1 o'clock Kirk Cousins game. If you've been watching the Vikings this week, last week, years past, Kirk does well at 1 o'clock games. I don't know what the hell it is for him. Maybe he just likes to go to bed early and this is just good for him. Anyway, I like the Kirk Cousins we get at 1 o'clock. I like the Justin Jefferson that we get when we get a good Kirk Cousins. JJ might go off, especially if Xavier Howard is still, limping into the game. They say he's going to play, but even with that, they're still not going to have 100% Xavier Howard coming off a groin injury. Groins take a long time to recover from. So I feel good there. They have a lot of injuries coming into it. Teron Armstead's hurt. Bridgewater's hurt. Mostert, after that game he had against us last week, he's hurt his knee. And Coho, one of their better corners, is out as well. Well, not out. I'm sorry. They're all questionable. So we'll see. Especially if Teddy doesn't go, that means Skylar Thompson's starting. I don't feel good about the kid. I'm not shading him. It's just, I'm not sold on the kid. He's still a rookie. And against that under that offensive line, I don't think he's going to be able to really put up a great game. But we'll see. Again, I like the Vikings here. Next, I like the Seahawks. They're getting 2.5 points on FanDuel. By the way, all my lines are going to be FanDuel more so than DraftKings, even though I use both. That said, the Seahawks are at home against the Cardinals. Cardinals have been really up and down this year. They haven't had DeAndre Hopkins in. Now, if Hopkins comes in, I'll probably start betting on the Cardinals because I like him. And I like how well that their quarterback plays. Kyler. I almost called him Skyler. Kyler plays when he has Hop in there. But since he doesn't have him, I'm not impressed. James Conner has already been ruled out for this game. Matt Prater's out for another week. I just don't feel confident about that team, especially with those injuries in general. They've had a hard time as far as defending. That's not the team that I have any faith in. Seahawks aren't necessarily world beaters, but Geno's been playing really well. I got to give the kid credit, former Jet. I don't know. And he's been playing quarterback pretty well. So all that said, I'll take all of that, and I'll take those 2.5 points from the Seahawks at home when they have the 12th man. If it comes down close, do you trust Matt Amendola to win a game for you? That's enough for me right there. I do not. So he ain't it. Jets fans know. So those are my three as far as the three games that I feel pretty good about taking those numbers. I do have one potential prop parlay that I feel pretty good about. It's going to be just Breece Hall. So I've got Breece Hall getting a anytime rushing touchdown, 75 yards rushing, 15.5 yards receiving totally. And that's going to give me like 625 as far as odds. That is me being very judicious. You guys, not judicious, but precautious. You guys already know that. I've said that before. I am not a big risk taker when it comes to gambling for money reasons. But I do, like I said earlier, I expect him to have more yards than that. I'm just going to go 75 yards and a touchdown and the 15 yards receiving. Feel pretty good that he gets those. And I like the numbers that I'll get if I win. But to be honest, if Breece does that, we're probably winning the game. I already told you I believe we're winning. So go ahead and throw the money line on there too. I'll give you close to 900-ish yards. Wow. 900-ish odds for the with a parlay. If my math serves, might be even higher than that since you'll be parlaying so many different legs in there. So might be worth it, honestly. As soon as I finish this video, I'm probably going to go ahead and throw a money line in there and put that parlay in there because I like that. I like that a lot. All that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate y'all week to week. My Knicks fans that watch just to support me and aren't necessarily Jets fans, thank you. Thank you for liking the video, commenting, subscribing. Don't forget to continue to do that for me. Share, tell a friend if you can, so we can keep growing. I mean, hopefully we'll be 100 subscribers soon, and maybe sooner than that. Maybe in the next week or two, we'll be able to continue to grow and get to 200. We'll see. All that being said, next video tomorrow. I'll make sure that happens. And enjoy the Sunday. Enjoy the Jets W that we'll be seeing on Sunday night. Have a great day.